The pungent aroma of wood smoke mingles with the coppery temps of blood, creating an unsettling perfume that permeates the forest clearing. In the center, a fire sputters, casting eerie shadows that writhe like restless spirits among the towering trees. Around the fire, a group of men huddle, their faces grim, their eyes reflecting the flickering flames. Their leader, a grizzled veteran known as John, runs a calloused thumb over the handle of his knife, its blade still slick with blood. Earlier that day, their patrol had ambushed a party of Native Americans. Now they prepare to perform a gruesome ritual, one that will send shivers down the spines of even the most hardened frontiersmen. They are about to engage in a practice so disturbing that it earned a place among the darkest chapters of human history: scalping. But what exactly is scalping? Why did it become a common practice during the westward expansion in America? And how did this barbaric custom impact the lives of those who lived and died on the wild frontier? Stay tuned as we explore the shocking truth behind scalping. This brutal tradition, deeply rooted in the lore of Native American tribes, was originally a ceremonial act, a significant part of their spiritual beliefs and warfare practices. Each tribe had its own unique customs, but the general aim remained the same: to capture the essence of the enemy. For instance, the Cherokee believed that by removing the scalp, they could capture the spirit of their enemy, preventing it from returning to haunt them. Other tribes, like the Sioux and the Cheyenne, saw scalping as a way to gain the strength of their defeated foes, believing that the scalp held the warrior's bravery and power. Among the Iroquois, scalping was a sign of respect to their defeated enemies, a way of acknowledging their valor in battle. European settlers, however, had a different perspective. To them, scalping was a sign of savagery and uncivilized behavior. But this perception was about to change dramatically when the French and Indian War broke out in 1754. As the conflict intensified, the British colonial government in Virginia offered a bounty for every scalp of a Native American warrior, encouraging settlers to engage in scalping as a means of claiming land and resources. What followed was a horrifying escalation of violence, leaving a trail of bloodshed and severed scalps in its wake. Now let us delve deeper into the chilling world of scalp hunting during the westward expansion of the United States. Imagine yourself in the year 1832, standing on the banks of the Washita River. You witness a horrific scene: hundreds of severed Native American scalps displayed on the walls of a fort. This macabre display was not meant to intimidate, but to serve as a grim reminder of the cost of opposing the U.S. Army. Such displays were common during the westward expansion, serving as warnings to native tribes and settlers alike. But the story doesn't end there. A closer look at these scalps reveals another horrifying detail. Many of the victims were women and children, indicating that the army did not differentiate between combatants and non-combatants. The use of scalps as trophies reached its peak during the American Revolution and the early days of the U.S. Army's campaigns against Native Americans. Major General William Craig, who fought against Native American forces in the Great Lakes region, expressed his disgust at the practice. In a letter home, he described seeing scalps of women and children hanging from trees, a testament to the brutality of the conflict. This disturbing spectacle was not just a symbol of violence, but a psychological weapon designed to demoralize and terrify the enemy. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the clearing, the men finish their gruesome task. The stench of decay and death hangs heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the day's events. But their work is not done. The next step in this macabre ritual is to collect the scalps, placing them on poles or trees for all to see. It is a warning to other would-be enemies, a declaration of their dominance. Fast forward to present-day America, where the legacy of scalping continues to resonate. The story of Mary Jemison, a white captive of the Seneca Nation of Native Americans, offers a glimpse into this dark past. When she was taken captive at the age of 14, Jemison found herself immersed in a culture vastly different from her own. Despite the horrors she endured, she learned the Seneca language and customs, ultimately choosing to remain with the tribe. However, her peaceful existence was shattered during the American Revolutionary War. The Seneca Nation, allied with the British, suffered greatly at the hands of the Americans, and Jemison found herself in the midst of a brutal conflict. Tragically, her husband and children were killed, and she witnessed firsthand the atrocities committed by both sides. The conflict reached a horrifying climax when a party of American soldiers arrived at her village seeking scalps. In a desperate bid to protect her people, Jemison offered herself as a hostage, hoping to save her friends and neighbors. Her act of bravery, however, was met with unimaginable cruelty. The soldiers, driven by greed and vengeance, scalped her alive, tearing away her scalp in a brutal display of violence. Though she survived the attack, her body was left scarred and disfigured, a grim reminder of the horrors of war. Meanwhile, in present-day Oklahoma, the Sacagawea Constitution of 1923 played a pivotal role in preserving tribal identity. Article 14 of the Constitution specifically addresses the issue of scalping, prohibiting it as a form of punishment or coercion. This move was a significant step toward shedding the dark legacy of scalping and embracing a new future for the nation. But the story of scalping doesn't end with the Sacagawea Constitution. In Montana, the Crow Nation Constitution of 1936 took an even stronger stance. Article 8, Section 14, explicitly outlawed the taking of scalps within the reservation, further cementing the rejection of this barbaric practice. The inclusion of such provisions in tribal constitutions reflects a broader cultural shift away from the violence and hatred of the past towards a future of understanding and coexistence. Today, museums across the country are working to preserve and educate visitors about the history of scalping. One such institution is the National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. Here, visitors can learn about the various uses of scalps by Native American tribes, both as trophies and as part of religious ceremonies. The museum also seeks to dispel myths and stereotypes about scalping, presenting a more nuanced and accurate portrayal of this controversial practice. Another museum that delves into the history of scalping is the Autry National Center in Los Angeles, California. The museum's collection includes a variety of artifacts related to the practice, such as weapons used in scalp hunting and examples of Native American regalia that incorporate scalp locks. Through these exhibits, the Autry aims to provide a comprehensive understanding of scalping within the broader context of Native American history and culture. As we conclude our exploration of scalping, it's important to remember that this practice was not simply an act of violence, but a complex and deeply ingrained part of Native American culture and history. By visiting museums and learning about the various uses of scalps, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the rich tapestry of Native American life and the challenges they faced during the westward expansion of the United States. One particularly thought-provoking exhibit can be found at the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. The museum's collection includes a portrait of George Croghan, an American Indian trader who played a significant role in the fur trade during the 18th century. The painting, which dates back to 1796, was created just 2 years before the U.S. government officially banned scalping. In addition to the portrait, the Peabody Essex Museum also has a variety of objects related to scalping, such as weapons and tools used in the practice. Visitors can also learn about the historical context of scalping, including the role it played in the fur trade and the American Revolution. Another museum that offers a unique perspective on scalping is the Minnesota History Center in St. Paul. The center's collection includes a variety of artifacts related to the fur trade and the interactions between European settlers and Native Americans. One particular exhibit, Deadly Medicine, Encounters between Indigenous People and Biological Warfare Agents, explores the dark side of the fur trade, including the introduction of smallpox to Native American populations. The exhibit also discusses the use of scalping as a means of identifying and collecting bounties on slain Native Americans. This exhibit provides visitors with a sobering reminder of the devastating impact of colonialism on indigenous populations and the lengths to which some went to protect their interests. If you're looking for an exhibit that takes a more personal approach to the topic of scalping, the Heard Museum in Phoenix, Arizona is worth a visit. The museum's collection includes a variety of Native American art and artifacts, including a portrait of a Hopi warrior named Mishongnovi. The painting depicts the warrior wearing traditional regalia and holding a scalp lock as a trophy of his victories in battle. Through exhibits like these, the Heard Museum seeks to celebrate the diversity and richness of Native American culture, while also acknowledging the difficult history that shaped it. Scalping was a practice deeply rooted in the traditions and conflicts of Native American tribes. As we continue to learn about and confront this dark chapter in history, it's essential that we do so through the lens of understanding and empathy. Scalping, an act so barbaric it seems straight out of a horror movie, has haunted our history. From the shadowy forests of 18th century Europe to the bloody battlefields of North America, it's a practice that's both horrified and fascinated us. But why? Why do we tell these tales of scalp hunters? And what is the dark allure that keeps us coming back to these stories? Join me as we peel back the layers of this chilling practice and uncover the hidden meanings behind it. Before we begin, please like the video. Now let's start. Across the ocean, in the shadowed forests of medieval Europe, scalping took on a different form, a whispered horror in the tales of travelers and soldiers. The Celts, fierce and proud, were said to take the heads of their enemies, but scalping too was known among them. It was a mark of honor, a way to prove one's valor in battle. Yet, as Christianity spread, the practice was condemned, labeled as barbaric, a relic of a pagan past. Still, in the dark corners of the world, where old ways lingered, scalping persisted, a silent rebellion against the march of progress. But what exactly did scalping mean in this time and place? To understand it, we must delve into the heart of Celtic culture, a society that revered strength and courage above all else. For them, war was not just a clash of armies, it was a dance of honor, and scalping, a part of this deadly ballet. It wasn't about complete removal of the scalp, as brutal as that may sound, but about taking a lock of hair from the defeated enemy. This lock, a tangible proof of one's valor, was then woven into the warrior's belt or displayed on their shield, a silent boast that whispered tales of battles won. It was a way to claim victory without causing unnecessary bloodshed, a concession to the old ways in a changing world. For the Celts, scalping was not merely a battlefield custom. It was a statement, a defiant cry that echoed through the ages. It spoke of a deep-rooted culture, one that refused to be silenced by the rising tide of Christianity. These tales, passed down through generations, serve as a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit yearns for recognition, for a moment of glory even in the face of overwhelming odds. The story doesn't end there, for as we journey through history, we find echoes of this ancient practice in the most unexpected corners of the globe. From the remote jungles of Borneo to the untamed wilderness of North America, the story of scalping takes on new dimensions, reflecting the unique cultures from which they arise. The Celts, with their tales of valor and honor, paved the way for a global phenomenon that would both terrify and intrigue the world. Their story, a thread in the vast tapestry of human history, reminds us that every culture, every conflict has its own language, its own customs, and its own horrifying traditions. Now let's travel to the dense jungles of Southeast Asia, home to many indigenous tribes, each with their unique customs and beliefs. Among them were the Dayak people of Borneo, whose lives revolved around the rhythm of the rainforest. For them, the line between the earthly and spiritual was blurred, and scalping, or in their case headhunting, was a ritual that bridged the two. It wasn't just an act of bravery or conquest, but a way to appease the spirits, to ensure a good harvest, or to protect their village from harm. For the Dayak, each scalp taken was a trophy, yes, but also a talisman, a conduit to the supernatural forces that shaped their world. These weren't mindless acts of violence, but carefully orchestrated rituals. The warriors didn't just cut off the scalp, they performed dances, they sang songs, and they made offerings, all to honor the spirits that they believed resided in the head. The scalps themselves were treated with reverence, often preserved and displayed in the village, serving as constant reminders of the tribe's power and connection to the spiritual realm. But with each scalp taken, the Dayak bound themselves to a heavier burden, a cycle of violence and tradition that cast a long shadow over their future. As the centuries rolled on, the outside world began to encroach upon their peaceful existence, bringing with it new diseases, new conflicts, and a growing threat to their way of life. Headhunting, once a means of protection, became a liability, a symbol of a savagery that outsiders sought to destroy. The Dayak, caught between their ancient traditions and the rising tide of modernity, had to make a choice: adapt or be swept away. But the question remained: could they break the chains of a tradition that had become a part of their very identity? Could they find a way to honor their ancestors while embracing the changes that the modern world demanded? The answer, like the mists that shroud the Borneo jungle, remains elusive. To truly understand the Dayak and their chilling customs, we must venture into the heart of their world, a world where the whispers of the wind carry tales of bravery, sacrifice, and a deep, sometimes unsettling connection to the natural world. The Dayak villages, nestled within the emerald embrace of the rainforest, are worlds unto themselves. Each hut, each ritual, each custom, a testament to a culture that has thrived for centuries. But it's in the Dayak's rituals that we truly see their reverence for the natural world. Their ceremonies, filled with music, dance, and offerings, are not just acts of worship. They're conversations with the spirits that inhabit every tree, every river, and yes, every human head. For the Dayak, the head, with its flowing locks, represents the seat of the soul. When they take the scalp, they're not just claiming a trophy, they're capturing a piece of the spirit world. This practice, though seemingly brutal, is a key to understanding the Dayak worldview. It reveals a society that respects the dead, honors the spirits, and values the connection between the physical and the metaphysical. The Dayak, with their intricate beliefs and age-old traditions, offer us a window into a world that's vastly different from our own. They challenge our perceptions, forcing us to confront beliefs that we might consider strange or terrifying. Yet in their strangeness, they teach us about ourselves, about the diversity of human thought, and about the importance of understanding and respecting different ways of life. And so as we continue our journey through the dark history of scalping, we must keep in mind the Dayak and other indigenous cultures who practice similar rituals. Their stories are not just tales of brutality, they're stories of survival, adaptation, and the enduring power of human belief systems. By exploring their customs, we don't just learn about scalping, we learn about the richness and complexity of human culture. In the New World, scalping took on a darker, more sinister turn. It became a tool of war, a weapon used in the brutal conflicts between native tribes and European settlers. As the 17th and 18th centuries unfolded, the landscape of North America became a battleground, and scalping, once a symbol of honor, turned into a horrifying instrument of terror and vengeance. During the French and Indian War, the British offered bounties for Native American scalps, turning the war into a gruesome game of financial gain. This practice, aimed at dehumanizing the enemy, led to horrific acts of violence, shattering any sense of mercy or compassion. Whole families were wiped out, villages were razed to the ground, and the forests echoed with the screams of the dying. This dark chapter in history reveals the depths of human cruelty, showing how easily compassion can be lost in the fervor of war. But it wasn't just the settlers who wielded this gruesome tactic. Native tribes, fighting to protect their ancestral lands, retaliated in kind. The Pequot War of 1636, the bloody struggle between the Pequot tribe and the colonists, serves as a stark reminder of this grim reality. Scalping became a way to strike fear into the hearts of the enemy, a macabre form of deterrence. It was a twisted logic that if you couldn't defeat your enemy, you could at least terrorize them, hoping to force them into submission. As the smoke cleared and the bodies lay still, the scalps served as grim trophies, a testament to the ferocity of the battles and the toll the war had taken on both sides. One such tale is that of Mary, a settler's wife, whose life was shattered by the loss of her family. Her husband and children, scalped in a raid, left her a hollow shell, her heart a cauldron of grief and rage. She took up arms, joining the militia, her hands soon stained with the blood of those she deemed responsible. Yet, with each act of revenge, she felt herself slipping further into the abyss, her humanity eroded by the very violence she sought to avenge. Her fate was a mirror of the land itself, torn and bleeding, caught in a war with no victors. In the end, the practice of scalping, whether for honor, vengeance, or religious fervor, left an indelible mark on history. It serves as a reminder of the lengths to which humans can stoop, but also of the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. The story of scalping, rich, complex, and deeply disturbing, continues to fascinate us because it forces us to confront the darkest aspects of human behavior. It challenges us to understand the motivations, beliefs, and pressures that drive people to commit such acts. By exploring these dark chapters of our past, we aim to learn, to grow, and to ensure that such horrors are never repeated. The year is 1876, and a fierce battle has just been fought. The air is thick with the smell of gunpowder and death, the ground littered with the bodies of men. Among the slain is Chief Black Wolf, a leader of a Native American tribe, known for his bravery and wisdom. When his body is discovered by his enemies, they do the unthinkable. They cut off his head and scalp him, taking his skin as a trophy. This horrifying act was not unheard of in those times, a grim practice known as scalping. Fast forward to the early 20th century, in the remote jungles of Borneo, a group of headhunters tracked down their prey, a member of a rival tribe who has stolen a sacred artifact. After a fierce struggle, they capture him and take him to their village. There, in a ritualistic ceremony, the headhunter cuts off the man's head, preserving it as a grisly souvenir. This macabre tradition was not uncommon among the indigenous tribes of Borneo, a custom rooted in their beliefs and fears. And then we shift to the modern day. A brutal crime has just been committed, a heinous act of violence that has shocked the nation. The perpetrator, driven by a twisted sense of loyalty, cuts off the victim's head and takes it with them. This gruesome act is not just a crime, it's a spectacle, a disturbing display meant to intimidate and terrorize. Across cultures, across centuries, one question arises: what is it about the scalp or the head that humans find so compelling? What drives us to preserve these mementos of violence and death? Scalping, the removal of the skin from a person's head, is an ancient practice that has been associated with various indigenous cultures throughout history. The term scalping itself is believed to have originated from the Dutch word esquela, meaning to peel or strip, which in turn is thought to have derived from the Latin word sculpa, meaning to carve or shape. The origins of the practice can be traced back to different cultures and regions, each with its own set of beliefs and practices surrounding this gruesome ritual. In North America, scalping was practiced by numerous indigenous tribes, including the Iroquois, the Sioux, and the Cheyenne, among others. The practice was often associated with warfare, serving as a means to identify fallen enemies and claim their heads as trophies or proof of one's valor. These scalps were often displayed as a sign of strength and dominance over rival tribes. Similarly, in South America, the practice of headhunting was common among the indigenous tribes of the region, such as the Guivaro and the Shuar. Headhunting was deeply ingrained in their cultures, often linked to rituals and ceremonies, and the heads were treated with reverence rather than as trophies. In Africa, the Himba people have a unique tradition of scarification, a form of body modification that involves the removal of the skin from the top of the head, leaving behind a distinctive pattern of scars. This practice is part of their cultural heritage and is often associated with coming-of-age ceremonies or acts as a symbol of one's social status within the community. In Asia, the practice of headhunting was prevalent among various tribes, including the Naga and the Kion. Headhunting was often linked to animistic beliefs and rituals, and the heads of slain enemies or mythical creatures were displayed as a way to ward off evil spirits. The motivations behind these practices varied across cultures. For some tribes, it was a way to intimidate and strike fear into their enemies. For others, it was a means of preserving the identity of their slain warriors. Some cultures believed that by removing the scalp or head, they could capture the essence of the individual, allowing them to live on in a different form. In other cases, it was a way to appease the gods or to prove one's bravery and strength. Scalping and headhunting were not merely acts of violence, but deeply ingrained customs with profound cultural significance. Understanding the reasons behind these practices provides a glimpse into the complex beliefs, values, and traditions of the societies that have practiced them. But it wasn't just about intimidation or cultural significance. There was also a darker, more sinister side to scalping. During the colonial era and westward expansion in the United States, scalping took on a new and horrific dimension. As settlers moved into Native American lands, tensions and conflicts rose. Scalping became a brutal tactic used during battles between settlers and indigenous tribes. The practice was often seen as a way to dehumanize the enemy, to inflict maximum psychological trauma and terror. Scalps were not just taken as trophies, but also to collect bounties. During the French and Indian War and the American Revolutionary War, the British offered bounties for Native American scalps, encouraging settlers and soldiers to kill and scalp their enemies. This led to a surge in scalping, as men, women, and even children were not spared. One of the most infamous instances of scalping occurred during the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864 in Colorado. A militia led by Colonel John Chivington attacked a peaceful Cheyenne and Arapaho camp, killing and scalping hundreds of Native Americans, including women and children. The massacre was a brutal display of violence and hatred, and the scalps taken that day became chilling souvenirs of a horrific event. In order to get a better understanding of why scalping was done, it is important to consider the historical, cultural, and psychological factors that contributed to its practice. Historically, scalping emerged in a context of conflict and conquest. As Europeans colonized new lands, they encountered indigenous populations who had their own cultures, beliefs, and ways of life. Scalping became a tool of war, a means to intimidate and dehumanize the enemy. It was also a way to claim land and resources as one's own, a symbol of dominance and control. Culturally, scalping was embedded in the traditions and rituals of certain societies. For some tribes, it was a way to honor their ancestors and appease their gods. Scalps were displayed as trophies or used in ceremonies to commemorate fallen warriors and maintain their memory. Psychologically, scalping can be seen as an extreme form of aggression and violence. It is an act that evokes fear, anger, and a desire for revenge. For those who practice it, there may be a sense of power and superiority, a feeling of dominating and controlling the situation. It's important to note that not all members of indigenous cultures supported or participated in scalping. Many individuals opposed the practice, recognizing its brutality and its harmful effects. Similarly, during the colonial era, many settlers and soldiers were against the use of scalping as a tactic of war, seeing it as unnecessary and inhumane. Understanding the motivations behind scalping, whether driven by cultural beliefs, psychological factors, or the horrors of war, is crucial for comprehending the full scope of this controversial practice. It allows us to examine the complexities of human behavior and the factors that contribute to violence and aggression. Scalping was a gruesome practice rooted in the darkest aspects of human nature. It served as a means to intimidate, to dominate, and to assert control over others. It was a symbol of power and a way to inflict maximum psychological trauma on victims. While it may seem barbaric and unfathomable in today's world, understanding the historical, cultural, and psychological factors that contributed to its practice provides a glimpse into the complexities of human behavior and the lengths to which people will go to assert their dominance and secure their place in a chaotic world. Now, let's move on to another topic. If you want to learn more about the fascinating world of historical facts and events, stay tuned for more updates. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.